Long before maps had borders and history had dates, the ancient Greek world believed that every human life was woven by unseen hands. The gods watched from above, sometimes guiding, sometimes destroying, and mortals lived knowing that pride could invite ruin. Among all the legends born from that belief, none carried more pain, glory, and irreversible loss than the story of the Trojan War. A war that did not begin with hatred, but with jealousy, desire, and a single fatal choice. The beginning was almost innocent. A celebration echoed across the halls of Olympus as Peleus, a mortal hero, married Thetis, a sea goddess of rare beauty. Gods and goddesses gathered, drinking nectar and laughing beneath golden skies. Yet one figure was missing. Eris, the goddess of discord, had been deliberately excluded, feared for the chaos she spread wherever she went. The insult burned deeply. Eris did not arrive with weapons or threats. Instead, she brought something far more dangerous. She threw a golden apple among the guests. It gleamed with divine light, impossible to ignore. Upon it were engraved 3 simple words, "To the fairest." At once, harmony shattered. Hera, queen of the gods, claimed it. Athena, goddess of wisdom and war, stepped forward. Aphrodite, goddess of love, smiled knowingly. Their rivalry grew sharp, their pride wounded. Zeus understood that no decision would end without catastrophe. Refusing to choose, he placed judgment into mortal hands. Paris, a Trojan prince raised as a shepherd, unaware of his royal blood, was summoned. Fate stood before him, disguised as beauty. Each goddess offered a bribe. Hera promised power over kingdoms and unmatched authority. Athena promised wisdom and victory in battle, glory that would echo through time. Aphrodite promised love, the love of the most beautiful woman ever born. Paris chose Aphrodite, and in that moment, Troy was doomed. The woman Aphrodite promised was Helen of Sparta. Daughter of Zeus, wife of King Menelaus, Helen was said to possess beauty that bent the will of men. Songs were written of her before she ever left her home. Paris traveled to Sparta as a guest, welcomed under sacred laws of hospitality. Menelaus treated him with honor, unaware of the betrayal approaching. When Menelaus left Sparta briefly, Paris acted. Whether through divine enchantment or human desire, Helen left with him. They sailed to Troy, carrying stolen treasures and an unforgivable insult. When Menelaus returned to find his palace empty, grief consumed him. His pain hardened into rage, and rage demanded war. Menelaus called upon his brother Agamemnon, king of Mycenae, the most powerful ruler in Greece. Together they summoned the kings who had once sworn an oath to defend Helen's marriage. Bound by honor, they answered. From across Greece they came. Odysseus, clever and cautious, tried to avoid the war, but was drawn in by fate. Ajax the Great arrived like a walking fortress. Diomedes thirsted for battle. Nestor brought wisdom earned through decades of war. And Achilles came, the greatest warrior of his age, born of a goddess, destined for glory or obscurity. Knowing he would die young if he went to Troy, Achilles chose a short life remembered forever. 1,000 ships gathered at Aulis, but the winds would not blow. The gods demanded payment. Agamemnon had angered Artemis, and the price was unbearable, his daughter Iphigenia. Torn between fatherhood and ambition, he chose conquest. The sacrifice was made, the winds rose, and the fleet sailed toward Troy. They expected victory within days. Instead, Troy stood unbroken. Its walls towered high, and its defenders were fierce. The war dragged on year after year. Crops burned, rivers filled with bodies, and hope slowly bled away. Warriors fought beneath the watchful eyes of the gods, who interfered openly, saving favorites, cursing enemies, turning battles with a whisper. At Troy's heart stood Hector, noble and dutiful. He fought not for fame, but for his city, his wife Andromache, and his young son. Each night he returned home, knowing it might be the last. Andromache begged him not to fight, but Hector believed honor demanded sacrifice. Achilles ruled the battlefield. No Trojan could stand against him, yet pride poisoned him. When Agamemnon seized Briseis, Achilles' war prize, Achilles withdrew from the war in rage. Without him, the Greeks faltered. Hector drove them back to their ships. Fires threatened the fleet. Desperation filled the Greek camp. Patroclus, Achilles' closest companion, begged to fight in Achilles' armor. Achilles allowed it, warning him not to chase glory. Patroclus fought bravely, pushing the Trojans back. But pride overtook him. He pursued Hector, and fate closed its grip. Hector struck him down. When Achilles learned of Patroclus' death, his grief was unbearable. He screamed so loudly that the sea trembled. Achilles returned to battle, reborn as pure wrath. Armed with divine armor, he slaughtered Trojans without mercy. Even the river god rose against him in fear. When Achilles faced Hector outside Troy's gates, destiny paused. Hector fled, knowing he could not win, but fate allowed no escape. Achilles killed him and dragged his body through the dust, denying him honor even in death. Soon after, fate claimed Achilles. Paris, guided by Apollo, fired an arrow that struck Achilles' heel. The greatest warrior fell, and the battlefield grew silent. Still Troy stood. Years passed. Exhaustion consumed both sides. Then Odysseus conceived a plan of deception. A massive wooden horse was built. The Greeks vanished. The Trojans debated. Warnings were ignored. Pride triumphed. That night, Troy celebrated. Greek warriors emerged from the horse. Gates opened. Fire spread. The city burned. Priam was slaughtered at his altar. Hector's son was thrown from the walls. Troy fell not to strength, but to deceit. Helen stood before Menelaus once more. His sword rose, then fell from his hand. Beauty spared her life. The war ended, but peace never came. Storms destroyed fleets. Heroes died returning home. Agamemnon was murdered. Odysseus wandered for 10 years. Victory proved as cruel as defeat. And so the Trojan War became a warning carved into memory. A story of pride, love, rage, and fate. A reminder that even gods cannot undo what human choices set in motion.